Have you ever met someone who seemed to know your future before you did? I have. And if I hadn't listened to that stranger, I wouldn't be here to tell this story. My name is Ryan. For years, I told myself that what happened that night had a logical explanation. Maybe exhaustion, maybe fear, maybe my imagination. But every October, when the wind begins to whisper through the trees, I remember every second as if it happened yesterday. 5 years ago, I loved hiking alone. The mountains were my escape. Whenever life became too loud, I disappeared into the wilderness with nothing but a backpack, a map, and my camera. One autumn afternoon, I decided to explore an old forest trail that locals rarely used. Before I left town, an elderly woman at a small cafe looked at my map. Her smile disappeared. "Don't stay in the forest after sunset." I laughed politely. "I'll be back long before then." She quietly replied, "That's what everyone says." The trail was beautiful. Golden leaves covered the ground. Sunlight filtered through towering pine trees. The air smelled of rain and cedar. Everything felt peaceful. Until I noticed something strange. The forest had become completely silent. No birds, no insects, not even the wind. It was as though nature itself had stopped breathing. A few minutes later, I realized I had lost the trail. I checked my map, my compass, even the GPS on my phone. Nothing made sense. The compass needle spun in circles. The GPS showed me walking, yet my location never changed. Every direction looked exactly the same. Panic slowly began to replace confidence. As the sun disappeared behind the mountains, I heard footsteps. Not behind me, beside me, keeping the exact same pace. Whenever I stopped, the footsteps stopped too. Whenever I walked, they returned. I turned around again and again. No one was there. Then I saw him, a man in a long gray coat standing beneath an enormous pine tree. He looked to be about 60 years old. His face was calm, almost familiar. He simply raised one hand. "You shouldn't be here." His voice was quiet, yet somehow it echoed through the entire forest. I asked if he knew the way back. Instead of answering, he looked toward the trees behind me. "They've noticed you." A chill ran down my spine. "Who's noticed me?" He didn't answer. He simply said, "No matter what you hear, don't look back." Before I could ask another question, he started walking. Something inside me said I should follow him, so I did. The deeper we walked, the colder the forest became. Then, I heard it, someone calling my name. "Ryan." It sounded exactly like my younger sister, but she lived hundreds of miles away. The voice came from behind me, closer every second. "Ryan, please help me." Every instinct told me to turn around. The stranger spoke firmly. "Keep walking." The voice changed. Now it sounded like my mother, then my best friend, then my late grandfather. Each voice begged me to stop, to turn around, to help them. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own footsteps. The stranger never looked back, neither did I. Suddenly, the trees opened into a small clearing. In the center stood an ancient stone arch covered in glowing moss. The stranger finally stopped. "This is the edge." "The edge of what?" I asked. He looked directly at me. "The place where people stop coming home." Before I could speak, a terrifying scream echoed through the forest. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It sounded like hundreds of voices crying out together. The ground beneath my feet trembled. Dark shapes began moving between the trees, always just beyond the light, never close enough to see clearly. The stranger pulled a small silver compass from his pocket and handed it to me. "When I tell you to run, don't stop until you see the highway. What about you?" He smiled sadly. "My road ends here." The shadows rushed toward us. The forest exploded with whispers. Branches twisted violently. The air became impossibly cold. "Now!" I ran. I didn't look back, not once. The screaming followed me. The footsteps grew louder. The whispers surrounded me from every direction. But I remembered his warning. Just keep running. After what felt like hours, I burst out of the trees onto the side of a highway. Passing drivers rushed to help me. When I finally looked back, the forest was completely still, silent, as though nothing had happened. The next morning, I returned with local police and rescue volunteers. I wanted to thank the stranger. I wanted answers, but there was no clearing, no stone arch, no footprints, nothing. It was as if the place had never existed. One elderly ranger listened quietly to my story. When I finished, his face turned pale. He walked into the station and returned with an old black and white photograph. "This man?" he asked. I nearly dropped the picture. It was him, the stranger, the same coat, the same face. The ranger swallowed hard. His name was Thomas Hale. He disappeared while rescuing two lost hikers 48 years ago. I couldn't believe it. The ranger continued. They found the hikers, but Thomas was never seen again. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then the ranger quietly added, "People still claim someone guides them out of those woods. They always describe the same man." Months passed. Life slowly returned to normal, or at least, I tried to convince myself it had. One rainy evening, while cleaning my backpack, I found something I had never noticed before. The silver compass, the very one the stranger had handed me. It couldn't be there. The police had searched every item I carried, yet somehow it remained. On its back were tiny engraved words, "Guide the next lost soul." I keep that compass locked in a wooden box. I've never thrown it away. I've never sold it. Because every autumn, on the same date, the compass begins pointing toward the forest, no matter where I am. Sometimes I wonder if Thomas is still out there, keeping his promise, waiting for the next person who loses their way. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder if one day, the compass will stop pointing toward the forest and start pointing toward me. If that day ever comes, I'll know exactly what I have to do. I'll walk back into those trees, not because I'm fearless, but because once a stranger saved my life, and perhaps it's finally my turn to save someone else's. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe this channel to see more heart-touching story. See you in the next video.